live with Jordan and Chris Walby.
So you're an executive producer as well?
I guess you could call me that.
Yeah, well, it's good. Well, so when you're building your resume, don't forget to write down every single thing you've ever done.
Yeah.
It's critical.
All right, Heather had to go, so I'm jumping in. We're a couple minutes behind, but
Anytime you're ready.
we're good. So cameras, start recording in 3.
We're
2,
going again.
1, and start recording.
Hello, folks. Welcome back to the Jordan411 Sports Show. And today I have another guest. He's been in broadcasting for 10 years, and he also done emceeing for 3 years, which is another talent that he has. And he's part of the morning show. That's
right.
And does the Blue Bomber podcast.
Yeah, I've got a lot of things that I do, Jordan.
Yeah.
Great to be with you.
And apparently, my prefect, Kelly Moore, said you could do any show and do well in it. Why could you do that?
I'm not sure. I've been blessed to get the opportunity, like you, to do exactly what I wanted to do in my life. And so, as we were talking off the air before we came on, one of the pieces of advice I was giving to you was to always say yes when somebody gives you an opportunity to do anything connected with what it is that you really want to do. It might feel sort of connected, or it might be exactly part of what it is that you're on the path to doing, but I always said yes. So if they wanted me to fill in on a weekend, I said yes. If they wanted me to do the 9 till midnight show, I said yes.
How was that staying up though?
No problem. When I've got 12-year-old twin boys,
oh,
so
twin boys. Oh, okay.
I'm used to going without sleep.
Are they identical or no?
No, they're not identical. Thank goodness for that, because it's easier to tell them
Because in your
apart.
bio you say you need some flight time. Are they loud?
No, it's always on the go.
Always
Go.
on the go? Like what things do they do?
My boys they curl. That's their winter. Eh? You bet. That's their winter activity. They play baseball. They play school volleyball and basketball. Yeah. Right now they're playing badminton. They're amazing swimmers, so always busy.
So do you get to see most of their events?
I do. I'm very lucky. Sorry, Jordan. I didn't mean to talk over you there. I'm very lucky because I get up in the middle of the night to host the morning show. I get up at 2:45. I try to be in the shower by 3 o'clock. And I try to be in my car by 3:30.
I couldn't even imagine getting up at that time.
Yeah.
Never mind 7 o'clock.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a different schedule for sure. But then I'm done work most days by 11 o'clock or noon.
Oh, till you're done.
That's right, but I've got other things that I've got to do, but I pick them up at 3 o'clock. I get to spend lots of time with them. So that is one of the advantages of working like a vampire in the middle of the night.
A vampire. What's the number one thing that you would have known before you became a broadcaster?
Man, is that a good question. I think that it would have been really good to know how incredibly nice the people are in the industry, how willing they are to answer questions when you have them, how supportive they are. I think when I first got into the industry, I went in with this preconceived notion that everybody was sort of in it for themselves. I didn't realize what a genuine community it was, and that they're always willing to help you out. All you had to do was ask for help and for advice.
Who was your mentor kind of as a broadcaster coming up?
Well, I've been very fortunate to work alongside Kelly Moore and Bob Irving, to be under his tutelage. Let me tell you, I've always just asked for help from Bob, but the gentleman who's probably given me the most confidence along the way is Charles Adler. Charles Adler now works out of Vancouver. He does a national program evenings, but he was a fixture in Winnipeg radio for a long time. And he always had the time of day for me. He would invite me to discuss a variety of different topics, and just always always believed in me. And you know what? Sometimes it's just, you
The
just need,
belief is all you need sometimes.
it's just one person, right? That's prepared to give you a little bit of guidance, and to give you a little bit of a nudge when you need it, or to give you a pat on the back when you need it. So
Did you listen to voice when you were growing up, or
I listened to everything.
everything?
Everything.
Was there one thing that you liked about
Oh,
it?
the most I listened to was hockey play-by-play.
Okay.
I wanted to be Ken Nicholson,
Okay.
who was the voice of the Jets on CJOB before Kelly Moore was. It was first Ken Nicholson, and then it was Kurt Keelback, and then it was Kelly Moore. And I used to hide a radio underneath my pillow.
Oh,
And I would listen to the radio from all over North America. I would wake up in the middle of the night and I would tune in radio stations from Oklahoma, from Chicago, from Denver, Colorado, and there was nothing like it to connect with another part of the world like that.
looking back at what you used to do you think you learned something from having that radio under your pillow?
Yeah, absolutely. Just the power of radio to connect us, the power of stories, the power of sharing your thoughts. And they talk about radio as the constant companion. There are a lot of people out there. CJOB, I know once upon a time they called them shut-ins. People who didn't have a lot of family that came to visit. And that idea of having that voice, having that friend. I'm sorry you're struggling with a cough,
I'm
partner.
coughing, yeah.
Just having that idea of having somebody with you all the time. And radio, you know, like Twitter, like Facebook now, you know, we can respond in the comment section immediately. Well, radio's been offering that for a long time, right? With the call-in shows and the ability to connect. And that's what I love most about radio, is that constant connection, that ability to connect.
How is it? Have you ever done it? Do you do a call-in show in the morning?
We don't take a lot of calls, but I have done it in the past.
How is that experience, taking calls?
Well, it's like what
I would love to do it.
you would love to do it?
That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you this. I think you'd be terrific at it because there's no script. There's no agenda a lot of times. You have zero control of what the callers are going to say. And you have to be quick on your feet. And you have to be able to respond to what they're saying. And it's a genuine conversation. That's a terminology we've used off the air here a couple of times. So that's what I love about it. And connecting with people.
So, like, do people call, let's say, about, like, all sorts of stuff, or based on the show?
There you go. And so as the host, you have that ability to guide the conversation, but you're not in full control of it.
How do you learn how to guide a conversation?
Well, I think it's just from doing stuff like this.
Okay.
I was before I was fortunate enough to get into the radio business through a contest like The Voice, where they invited people to come down and try out for the opportunity. I was in sales. I was in the restaurant business. I always had a job from the time I was
How was the restaurant business?
I loved it.
Hard?
Of course it's hard, but it's people oriented. And so it's an opportunity to have conversations with people.
What was your restaurant?
I worked at Chi-Chi's Mexican restaurant.
Chi-Chi's.
I worked at Earl's restaurant. My first job was at a place called Fingers, some people might remember. And those places were right near the Winnipeg Arena and Winnipeg Stadium. So I got to meet the Jets. I got to meet the Bombers. I got to meet Wayne Gretzky and the wrestlers and all the people that used to come through town.
Who was the number one person that you met doing one of those jobs?
I would say Wayne Gretzky.
Wayne Gretzky?
Yeah, he walked into our restaurant and I came face to face with him one time. And I was not a fan of his, being a big Winnipeg Jets fan.
Yeah.
Him and the Oilers did a lot of damage to the Jets in the playoffs. And when he became a member of the LA Kings, the Kings would come for 2 games typically. So they only had to come to Winnipeg once. They would come on a Friday night and a Sunday afternoon. And they would come to our restaurant every once in a while.
what type of bombers did you meet there?
You name the Blue Bomber that if they played for the Bombers from 1984 to 1990, I met them.
Chris Walby?
Chris Walby, absolutely.
Dieter Brock?
And I was, there's a book out about Dieter Brock
Oh
right
yeah,
now.
my dad has it under his nightstand.
Okay.
He hasn't read it yet. though,
Okay,
for
well, I
some
want you
reason.
to read the first page of that book,
Okay.
because it's all about me
All
and
right.
Dieter Brock.
Really?
And how angry I was when Dieter Brock left Winnipeg. And so the author of that book spoke to me about how someone who loved Dieter Brock growing up could become so angry with him. And I got to take my kids to meet Dieter Brock last summer, and we had a barbecue,
Yeah.
and my kids got to meet my childhood hero.
How watching him as a child? How was that?
It was unbelievable, Jordan. Nobody could throw a football like him. Nobody. And I'm talking Tom Brady. I'm talking anybody who's come after Dieter Brock.
Yeah.
Nobody could throw a ball as hard as he did.
I couldn't imagine sitting there and seeing 100-yard throw or 80-yard throw. You just don't see that.
You just don't. And he wasn't a tall guy. He was about 5'11" when he played, but he had this magic in his wrist, and he would step back.
Yeah, the flick.
The flick.
that-
You
that
got it,
we
man.
talked about.
Yeah, and I know you've interviewed Joe Poplawski,
Yeah.
and how hard Dieter Brock would throw that ball,
Yeah.
and you would have to adjust how you caught the ball. The stories are terrific.
Does he still have that Alabama accent?
He does, actually.
He does?
Yeah, he lives in Alabama with his wife, and
No wonder why he was a good football player then.
well, yeah, Alabama is the hotbed of
That's the
football, right?
hotbed.
You bet. SEC, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
How was it coming from the restaurant business into broadcasting and interviewing some of the guys that you met in the past?
I still pinch myself. It's something else I can remember sitting in the press box at a Winnipeg Jets game in 2013, and my grandfather was my hero. He passed away at 93. He worked building sets for the CBC. And so when I was a kid, I used to meet the CBC people every once in a while. But after my grandfather passed, I was in the press box sitting between Bob Irving and now the late Bob Pickin. And I wish I could have taken a picture and shared it with my grandfather. I could have, would have been one of those things to say, hey, I made it. But when you get to meet and talk to and interview people that you've long admired, it's a privilege. There aren't a lot of people who get to do it. You know what it's like.
Yeah.
And what you realize real quick is they're just people.
Normal people.
They're just normal people. And in most cases, they're more than gratified when you ask them, hey, do you remember that game against Calgary back in 1983 when Eugene Goodlow caught the ball? They look at you, how do you remember that? Just happen to remember it. And they love the fact that they find somebody else who remembers it the way they do.
What's your favorite Dieter Brock moment that you still remember?
Boy, that's a super question. It's funny because I grew up in Brandon. I spent 4 years in Brandon as a kid.
Okay.
And so we got the Blue Bomber games on TV, whether they were home or away. And so we got a Bomber game every week. But the best Dieter Brock moment is probably when they came back against the Ottawa Rough Riders. Joe Poplawski was a rookie that year, would have been, I guess, 1978. And Dieter Brock, I think the attempts were somewhere around 52 or 53. The Bombers were behind. Joe Poplawski kicked an onside kick with his left foot and helped bring the Bombers back. It was one of the great comebacks in the Bombers history.
Shout out to Joe Poplawski.
Shout out to Joe Pop.
Would like to have you back for the second round.
There we go. Yeah, nobody liked Joe Pop. I wear a Joe Poplawski jersey at a lot of the games. And my neighbor is James Murphy. And so James Murphy was one of my heroes when I was a kid. And so when you see the players that have remained in Winnipeg, that weren't born here. It just is a huge
It just
reminder.
shows, right, how Winnipeg is like the spirit is still alive here.
Well, just think about this, Jordan. Think about this. Last year, in the Western Conference Final, Jets versus Vegas, you've got a Blue Bomber legend, Willard Reeves. His son is playing against the Jets. Yeah. And now in this first round of the playoffs, Winnipeg Jets legend Thomas Steen, his son, Alexander, is playing for the Blues. So I don't know how many communities have that story. Thomas Steen was not born here. Willard Reeves was not born here. But they've both chosen to stay in Winnipeg.
How was Willard as their running back?
I don't know if there was anybody better. He only played for, I want to say, 4 years. The way he could find a hole, he called his, now I want to say this right. He called his linemen the White Horses, I think. And Chris Walby, Miles Gurrell, he had John Bonk at center. He had some legendary offensive linemen that blocked for him. But Willard was not super fast, but he picked a hole. And when there was an opportunity to go upfield, he went, and bringing him down was very tough. He was a very powerful, decisive runner.
And was he big? Because he used to work out a lot.
Oh yeah, he was big. He was a big man. He had a big lower torso, big legs, just very confident runner. One of my favorite players of all time. And a great guy.
Great guy.
Have you interviewed him yet?
No, not
gotta
yet.
get a shout out to Willard Reeves. Willard, you got to come on the Jordan 411 Sports Show.
We'll just do a whole bunch of shout outs.
Absolutely. Let's do James Murphy. Who do you want to shout out to? Let's get Dieter Brock on the phone.
Let's get Dieter Brock on the phone.
At the very least, let's get Dieter Brock on the phone.
I forget now. I think that's it.
Jordan, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you for being here.
I am very impressed with your memories of the Blue Bombers. Though, like, you're asking me about players that you didn't even see play, man. This is from your dad's memories, so thanks for doing this.
Do you before we go, do you remember Warren Moon at all?
Can I tell you a quick story?
Yeah, quick.
Okay, real quick. Warren Moon went to Minnedosa to do the Sportsman's Dinner about 8 years ago. My dad lived in Minnedosa, was on the organizing committee. He says, can you do me a favor? Can you pick up Warren Moon from his hotel on Sunday morning and drive him to the airport in Winnipeg? So I got 3 hours in a car with Warren Moon talking about his NFL career, some of the things that he's seen, social injustice, and then, of course, we had to talk about the Blue Bombers. And he reminded me that his very last game in the CFL was in old Winnipeg Stadium, and it was a loss to the Blue Bombers in the playoffs. So at least we got that on.
Shout out to Warren Moon. If there's some way, I would do it. Thank you.
Thank you,
It
Jordan.
has been an honor.
The honor's all mine. Thank you, my friend.
Stop recording in 5, 4, 3, 2.